Hi everyone, welcome back to Prairie Gnome Quilt Company. My name is Jessica. Today I want to talk about something I tried. Let me show you. I don't know what this is called. Again, let me stress I am not a professional. I don't know terminology. I don't know what I'm doing. This is a channel where you can sew along with me and we can learn together. So yesterday I started making these. I have an entire table laid out of different jelly roll strips that I want to put together. Essentially in December I made 2 Christmas quilts, so these little baby quilts, and I don't know if you can see it, but I'm a dope and I didn't realize the different tricks that you could do to sew together jelly rolls or other things and make squares and half square triangles and things like that easier than actually piecing them together piece by piece. So for instance, in this particular quilt, all of these little 2.5-inch squares, I literally cut 2.5-inch squares and sewed each and every one individually. This entire quilt, every single piece sewn individually. For instance, on this one, I cut the strips, the jelly roll strips, into, I believe, 6 or 7 inches in length. And then I did 2 horizontal and 2 vertical, 2 horizontal, 2 vertical, side by side. But I did each and every one individually and independently, not realizing I could have sewn those strips together and then cut and then had my little squares from that. It would have cut my sewing in half. So now that I realize you can make these squares, which I did yesterday, so I took jelly roll strips, laid them in the patterns I want, sewed the long strips together, and then cut my squares out of those. I don't think I've said it before, I am not a math person. I hate math. I can't do math. Anybody in my life will tell you that. So numbers don't really matter to me, which is probably not a great thing in sewing. I have learned the value of a good seam allowance and all of that, which we can talk about in other videos. But when it comes to your square has to be exactly 5 inches by 5 inches or this or that, does not matter to me. It's like I will figure it out and make it work, and it'll be beautiful regardless. So that's where I'm at with that. You can be wherever you want to be with that. So these particular squares, my original intent was to do 5-inch squares, but I used 3 strips and then the math with the seam allowances and all of that. It was they ended up, because they start at what, 7.5, because you have 3 times 2.5, something like that. And in the end, with my seam allowances, they wound up 6. So to make a square, I did 6 by 6. So my squares are 6 by 6. You can do your squares however you want. But I thought I would show you this process because it's a really handy trick, and I think they're beautiful. I am absolutely loving this, and I can't wait to do the whole collection. It's laid out on my table. I have a photo on my Facebook, but I'm not a great camera person, so I can't really show you the table. It is the Farmstead collection by Moda. I bought this quite a while ago. I think you can still find this collection a little bit on Etsy from sellers on Etsy, but I have to imagine that whatever's on there is all that's left because I bought this quite a while ago, and those things tend to go quickly. So this is the set that we're going to do right now here. So I'm gonna put these barns, see if you can see it, these barns with the wheat, and then under the wheat we'll do the flowers and the butterflies. So in order to do this, and I will tell you, we'll do some videos on tension. Yesterday I was having an issue with my tension and I had some wavy lines on the back and yada, yada, yada. Tension is the bane of my existence in sewing. I don't understand it. The rules for what it's supposed to be and why it's supposed to work don't typically go how you think and whatever. So These are just very thin strips. It seemed better. I Googled it. It told me I needed a higher tension, so I put mine at a higher tension. And then when it, again, I'm terrible at math, so when it comes to figuring out your seam allowances, I don't understand the math on here, because when you move your width button, your needle moves. So it's like, if these are stationary and your needle's moving, it's never going to be correct. But that's another thing I need to figure out. And then once I figure out, I'll make a video for you. I personally have gotten a ruler, and I'll eyeball it, and then I'll take my ruler and see, oh yeah, it is about 1/4 inch, or nope, I need to move it a little bit. So I don't know how to use this measuring plate. It just confounds me. So we'll figure that out in another video, but I'm going to eyeball it. It is important to try to get a 1/4 inch seam if you can, and let me explain why. On the back, and I spent months refusing and saying, no, it's not important, it's not important. And I would sew really close to the edge, and I would have very, very, very little seam allowance. But the reason it's important is because of bunching and getting them flat, especially when you sew pieces together and those pieces meet. So if you see here, these seams I've ironed flat already because I have a good enough seam allowance that I can iron them flat. See if you can see that. So like, here's this top one. If you do not make this wide enough and you do a really, really narrow seam allowance, that is not going to be able to iron down nicely, and it's just going to cause these big kind of bunches in the back of your fabric. And although it's not the end of the world, so don't let people tell you it's the end of the world, it is aggravating when you start realizing that every time you sew something together and you sew another one here and those joints meet, it causes just chaos and bigger bunches and bigger bunches. So the flatter you can get that, not only the prettier will it be, because it also has to do with this connection right here on the front. If you can iron this flat, then this connection will be fantastic. If you can't iron this flat, this connection, it's not right. I can't describe it. I can't explain it. But as a beginner sewer, just take my word for it. It is really terrible. So I started making bigger and bigger seam allowances just to make sure that the back of my patchworks were good. So just FYI for you beginners out there, learn from my mistakes. So these I had folded in half. They're the jelly rolls again. If you watched my video that explains these fabrics, jelly rolls are typically 2.5 inches wide by the width of whatever the fabric was if you were to buy yardage of this print. I believe this one was 42 or 43 inches, somewhere in there. So what we're going to do, you want it, if it's directional, and this is directional, we don't want my barns upside down, right? So we're going to place them the correct way. And we're going to take our next print, and this one's not really directional, so it doesn't matter. But you can see the salvage edges. There's the two obvious salvage edges. I'm just going to put those together, so directionally it would be good. So just put those end to end. If you want to pin the heck out of yours, go ahead and pin the heck out of yours. I typically do for these. They're so quick and easy that I'll put a few pins on it, but not a whole lot. So we're going to line them up. We're going to pin them together. So we'll do a couple there, a couple there. These don't move as much as like the Minky or the nursery flannel. Sometimes will move a little bit. Stretchy fabrics are really what will move most, I've noticed, under the needle. So we'll just, this I'm not so worried about. It's just cotton. This Farmstead collection, as are most of these jelly roll things and stuff, are just 100% cotton and really thin. So you're probably going to want as I said earlier, a little bit higher thread tension, and you should be good. So let's just pop a couple more on here just to make sure they're lined up and straight. Oh no. And see, and this is why we're learning together. I just realized directionally, yeah, I started pinning it to the wrong side. So this would have gone above my barns had I kept going, and not below my barns, but I want this to be the middle strip, so I need to pin the other side. Ay, ay, ay. See, and that's another reason I moved to these clips. If you've been wondering about clips versus pins, as a beginner, I make a lot of mistakes, let's be real. And the pins leave like little tiny holes all over the fabric, and I was constantly moving things more than I should, and things like that. So for me, I just kind of like the clips because they don't leave any needle marks. And also, I've noticed personally that when you use a straight pin, it kind of bunches the fabric a little. I don't know what the proper terminology would be for that, but it does kind of move the fabric a little bit, and it makes it not quite right. Maybe minusculely not quite right, but not quite right enough that with these clips you can just have it be A, not affecting your fabric, and B, it's not putting that little lump in your fabric where the fabric is bunching around the pin. So, okay, so I just popped a few on there, and I'm going to check it. So mistakes are good because we learn from them. So before you sew, check it. Okay, so I'm just going to open this up a little bit, and yes, directionally my barns are great. It's pinned to the bottom, so it's going to be the middle row. I'm good to go. So I'm going to pop this in here. Beware, there is something with my walking foot. I don't know if it's all people's walking feet. I've actually wondered about this, but I don't know any other sewers who I can ask. But my other presser feet, fine. No problem, no sound. They're great. When I put my walking foot on, it is so loud. It's weird. And then I also forgot to, my scissors were stuck to my magnetic bowl. I also forgot to cut off my selvage. So I'm just so I don't have to sew more than I'm supposed to. I can see the dots on there. So I'm just going to cut off where the little perforations that show you it's selvage are. I'll just put those in my little trash bucket. There we go. So we're going to put this under here. However you measure, however you do to get 1/4 inch seam, you do that. I'm going to eyeball mine. Again, not positive, but it looks about what I've been using from an eyeball standpoint. And we're going to lower our needle. I have my length on 2.5 because, again, it's really thin fabric and you don't need to punch through a lot of layers. So mine's pretty low. Could it be lower? Probably. Do I know anything about these settings? Absolutely not. So you do you. I'm currently 2.5 length, 2.5 width, and 6 on my tension. But you saw the back of those. My stitches look beautiful. So that works for me. Every machine's different. So let's go ahead and sew this. We're going to just start slowly. I do not, and I'm going to back stitch. My machine only does this very slow, one at a time back stitch. I've seen machines that zip and do really fast back stitch. I would love one of those machines, but I don't have one. I do not put mine on the highest speed. I don't sew on the lowest speed, but yeah, just for accuracy and to make sure that I'm not going faster than I can handle, I don't sew on the fastest. So we're just going to zip down this line, get these two attached, and then we'll do the next one. And what I'm doing is just guiding my fabric. Take your clips off as you go, obviously. And you keep the edge of, what I do is keep the edge of my presser foot with the edge of my fabric as my guide, and don't watch your needle. Just watch the presser foot and where your fabric is on the presser foot. So depending, sometimes you kind of have to sew on this side, sometimes you have to sew on this side. Whatever viewpoint you pick, just watch that and make sure that the edge of whatever fabric you're using is hitting the point that you want it to, and you'll be fine. Don't watch the needle or you'll get wonky. So let's finish this strip real quick. And just use your fingers lightly if your fabric starts to move. So I got to a place, I took my clip off a little early and now it's scooting over. So I'm going to stop. I'm going to kind of just move my fabric back again. I will have a little tiny zone where it's off a smudge, but if that bothers you, stop, remove it, go back, redo it. It doesn't bother me. It's a fraction, so I'm just going to keep going. But I stopped, I moved it over, and now we're going to keep going. But use your hands just to lightly guide it as it moves under the needle. I have my walking foot on. The walking foot will pull the fabric through. That's what the walking foot does, along with the feed dogs. And we'll do a video on what feed dogs are too. That took me a while to figure out. I accidentally turned them off at one point, but we'll talk about that in that video. But don't use a lot of pressure on your hands when you're guiding this through. I'm not using any pressure at all. I'm literally just letting my hand kind of naturally, lightly guide it. So as it wants to turn away, it doesn't. It just stays even. So the edge of my fabric is with the edge of my presser foot. And then I forgot to cut off the selvage on the other end as well, so I'm going to stop a little short. I'm going to back stitch. So we back stitched in the beginning and we're going to back stitch now. I back stitch about 1 inch or so. I don't know what's right. I don't know if that's wrong. That's what I do. I've never had anything fall apart. I'm going to cut my threads. I'm one of those people who cuts their threads as they go. I've seen videos where people do the thing where they chain stuff through and then they just cut it real quick after. I'm not that person. If you're that person, that's great, but I'm not that person. I also didn't realize that my selvage on one side was bigger. This side's bigger than the selvage on this side. So I'm going to cut the selvage to the bigger side off and it'll cut my threads. So what I'm going to do is go back and re-sew like the last inch of it just to make sure it doesn't fall apart since I'm cutting my threads. So let's show you that. And again, all these steps are what I think are great for beginners. I'm a beginner. I didn't have anybody to follow these steps, which is why I kind of wanted to do these videos, because it's all well and good, but people who are really good at this and make videos, they skip all this. They pause the video, they edit it out, and they don't show you all those little errors and bits and how to fix it. So that's what we're going to do. So I just cut it, which means my thread has been cut. So I'm going to stick it back under here, line it back up. You haven't moved your needle. You haven't touched your settings. So if you line the edge of your fabric back up with the edge of your presser foot, the needle should drop exactly where it was before. So I'm going to drop my needle. I'm just going to sew down inch and a half. Well, I'm going to do a couple stitches. I'm going to back stitch again because you always back stitch. Otherwise your projects will probably fall apart. And then just go down a little bit. And that just kind of locks it in. Those stitches that were already there are now locked in, which makes the rest of it strong, which means even though we did that. This is the first like sewing thing we've done together. So I just thought I'd mention this because I just realized it. Somebody was visiting me over Christmas and showing me some things I didn't know about my sewing machine, and they pointed this out. I didn't even know what this was, this little notch right here. It's a seam ripper. So I could have pulled this up and gone yoink, and then it gives you like the perfect length of tail. Even though I learned that, I don't like it. And I don't know why I don't like it. I don't know if it's harder for me. I don't know if I just got used to doing it this way. And so I prefer it this way. I don't really know why, but I prefer to use my handy dandy snips and just kind of snip them all. So we have 4 because we started and stopped really close together. So we're gonna have 4 pretty much in the same general area. And there we go. So we fixed that. So now if we open it up, we have, it's not flat because we haven't ironed down our seam yet. So it's gonna look a little bulgy on front until we iron that down. But now we have our barns on top, our wheat in the middle. So now what we wanna do is take our 3rd one and line that strip up along the bottom, the wheats. And then we're gonna sew those to the wheat. And once we do that, we'll have all 3. And then we'll move over there and I'll change the camera and show you cutting them. So then we can cut them down into squares. So I'm gonna line this. Oh, let's cut off our salvages before we forget again. And I typically use a ruler for everything and don't cut like this except in this scenario because they're so small that 1.5 cuts with my scissors will get it. And you can see the line on the salvage. So I have a line to follow, which is how they come out fairly straight. This is directional. So it has butterflies and bees on it. I'm not sure if you can tell, which are directional. We don't want butterflies upside down. So I'm going to lay it here with mine. So I'm looking at it upside down, but if you were looking at it from your direction, my barns are upright, then that, and then my butterflies are upright. So since I know they're all directionally sound like that, I'm just going to flip this over on top of the wheats. And then I know I'm good to connect those and pin them up. And this is probably going to be a little bit long of a video for what we're doing, but again, I don't want to cut out all of the middle bits because that's the good stuff. That's the stuff that beginners need. Beginners need to see how to correct the mistakes or how to approach something different, like when we didn't cut the salvage and then we cut our threads and then what? So I'm just going to pop a couple of these clips on here real quick. I'm not going to do a lot. You can pause the video, put as many clips on it as you feel is necessary. I'm just going to gently, lightly line these up. And then we will sew the next one. And then sometimes it's a little pesky, but that's okay. We'll get it. We got it. And let's just do like 2 more. Do 1. And in the end, do 2. Okay. For me, which end or which side you put in the machine, personal preference. For me, I'm right-handed. How I look at my presser foot, and then also what I'm feeding through the throat. This part I do know is called the throat, and mine is very very shallow. I wish I could afford an expensive machine where it was a deep throat, especially for the big quilts and stuff that you make. To shove all that material through there is really difficult. For me, I like to hang the bulk of my fabric, if I can, off of this side, so I'm not shoving it through here. So that's why I'm going to put mine through this end, because it leaves this stuff on the left, and we're going to line up our presser foot on the edge. Again, we have not changed our settings, so we're going to drop our needle, do a couple of stitches, and then back stitch over those few stitches. Mine's probably much slower than yours. And then just go forward and sew these together. So we'll do this quickly. And then I took that clip off a little soon, so once again, I'm going to straighten mine and then keep going. I did it again, moved it too soon, so let's straighten it and put those back, and then keep going. Now we're going to back stitch and cut our threads. Just snip these off really quickly. There's that one. Oh, I forgot to do the ones on this end last time, so let's get those while we're at it. Becomes really difficult when you're attaching squares together. If you haven't cut those, it just adds chaos, a lot of extra chaos. So we'll get these little tails off. Two more, there's one and two. And then let's see what we've got. So my barns go on top. Now, because of the seam allowance, you'll notice that the center looks a lot more narrow, but we're going to start attaching these at some point to other squares. So when you sew this one to another one, it'll get just as narrow as this one. So in the end, they'll be the same, but in this moment, the top and bottom will look wider than the center one, because the center one has the seams on it. Eventually, they'll all have seams and they'll all look that narrow. So this is what we've got. This is what our squares will be. So we're going to come over here. I'm going to turn my machine off, clean that up later. We're going to come over here and let me see if I can point this down to where we're going to be cutting. We'll cut these and then just kind of show you how to make our final squares. See, does that look okay? I think that looks okay. All right, see the table? I'm going to move these up so we don't accidentally cut into them. this is the pile of squares we've already done. So move those over there. Normally I would iron this, but this video is going to be really long as it is. So I'm not going to iron this before I cut them. It really won't make that much of a difference. I'll iron it after. But I'm going to line it up on my board. You can't see this end of my board. See if I can. Let's see. Oh, there you go. So see how it's at 6 inches? So I'm going to line it up. It's at 6 inches. And since I want a square, I'm going to do 6 inches all the way down. So I'm going to take my ruler. And yes, I have a nerve issue, and I also have tremors off and on. So I'll be cutting and I'll go sideways. Like I have a tremor or a flinch or something. So my ruler gets quite a lot of cuts in it. So I band-aid them up. I keep extra ones of these in a drawer just because once it gets to a point, or once it gets to where the cuts in the ruler can hurt me, I toss them and I get a new one. So these are actually fairly inexpensive. I highly recommend this ruler. It's 18 inches long, 3 inches wide. When you're cutting binding, I cut my binding for my quilts at 3 inches, and this is perfect. It makes the perfect width. When I do wristlet keychains and things like that, they're also cut at 3 inches. So I highly recommend a 3-inch wide ruler, and the 18-inch length is great. I wish I could find one, and I might look for one that's even longer, but it's fantastic. So we're just going to go at 6 inches. I have my guide board underneath us, so as long as the fabric looks straight, I have it at the 6 line up there and the 6 line up here. Oh, can't see it. There you go. So the ruler's at 6 there, and the line is on 6 here. I'm going to just use my rotary cutter, hold this down tight, put it up to it, and just go. So now that's a 6-inch square. So now I'm going to go down to 12. I'm not going to move my fabric around. I'm not going to touch my fabric. I'm just going to line these up at all of the multiples of 6 down my ruler, or down my table. So now we'll go to 18, and try not to, see how I kind of come from above it and I set it down. I don't push it down because I don't want the fabric to move. As long as it's not moving down the line, you should be fine. If it makes you feel better to move it and do each one individually down at 6 so you know that they're correct, go ahead and do that. If mine wind up a tiny bit off, I don't care. So that's just me. Oh no. And I forgot to move this again. So now we're down there. Let's see. What are we at? 30. We need to go to 30. We just did 24. Again, not good at math, so yeah, 6 times 5 is 30. So get to 30. So again, I come down and kind of press it down on my fabric instead of forcing the move. So I'm going to stack these up because I ran out of cutting space down there. My cutting board stops, and I'm just going to move myself back down. Since the camera's right there, I'm going to start at 6 instead of 0. So we can do this here. So at 6, so I'm going to do 12 is my next multiple of 6. And then 18. And on all of these, because of the length of them, I have probably just over an inch left. And I'm saving that. So these are my squares. This is my leftover. And I still have my leftover from the last one as well. I'm going to probably save these and do something with them. But there it is. So we do need to iron them. They look a little poofy and not flat, but look how pretty. Oh my gosh, I love this. It is so much easier than when I did those Christmas blankets that I showed you at the beginning. Holy moly. And now we have 6 by 6 squares. So we're going to finish all of these. I'll show you the table in just a moment. Finish all these up and then turn them into a quilt. And so maybe we'll just do this whole quilt step by step together. And as a pad, they're not all exactly the same. Like this one has no butterfly, right? And the barn is going to be different and in a different location than this barn because the pattern does kind of change as you move down the large strips. So they're not all going to be exact copies. This particular one, oh, look at this one, wait. Right in the center, barn in the center, look how pretty. I love it. This one got 2 barns. So again, variety in a sense, but different. And I love it. And so here are these 2. And even though a lot of these are directional, like the barns are directional, the butterflies are directional, I don't know yet if I'm going to keep them directional or maybe I'll turn them and I'll do some pinwheels or something and see if that works, or I don't know, because I don't know. Haven't decided, but that's okay. We don't have to know what we're doing. Don't let anybody tell you do. I never do. And everything I make comes out beautiful. Just ask my family. All right, so that's it. I hope that that was helpful for everybody. I know that learning to do this was really super helpful for me, and I just learned it yesterday. So now you know it as well. So, oh, the fabrics. Let me show you real quick. I have these laid out. We'll see how they go. I love them. All right, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them in the comments below and I will respond. Other than that, thank you for joining me and I hope everybody has a great day. Thanks. Bye.